Hi, this is Coach Bev from Redeem the Time for Life, and I'm really excited again to have another guest for Arise and Shine interviews. And today I have Jenna Nell Northwood, and she's passionate about bringing faith-inspired encouragement to others. She's been married to her childhood sweetheart, Jason, since April 2009, and they have 4 children together. Jack, Jessica, is it Jono? Jono,
yeah,
Jen?
John, but we call him Jono. Yeah.
Jono, I like that. Jono and Jane, and many furry babies. And they are a South African family that lives between Dubai and South Africa. That's interesting. And Jenna thrives on adventure, travel, and music. She's released a children's book series on the fruits of the Spirit and is working on other books and devotionals. She's recorded her own worship song that you can find under her name on all music apps. And I did listen to it and it's really good. So you need to listen to that. And her house is a noisy one full of children, animals, and laughter, but she wouldn't have it any other way. She runs a blog at Juggling the Jays that is about juggling her family of Jays. I like that everybody has a J name. Jesus and joy in the journey of life. She also manages Bloom Ladies, which is a social network app for Christian women. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biochemistry and a postgraduate certificate in education with distinction. She would love to hear from you, so you can connect with her on social media, and I'll put that in the comments when I link it. So Jenna, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me on Arise and Shine interviews.
Well, thank you for having me.
So Jenna, let's just start off with, you do so many things. Let's just start off with, how did you come to figure out what you did when?
It's a really good question. It's a really interesting one, because sometimes I think I've got it figured out, and then God reshuffles it. I don't know if you've ever had that before. I have this whole plan, and then it's like, even with my books I'm writing at the moment, I've got one on purpose. So purpose is something that I'm very passionate about. And so I've got a book on the questions of purpose, and then I've got a devotional that I'm currently working on for pilots' wives. And because I am a pilot's wife, my husband's a pilot, so I thought the Questions of Purpose book would come out way before the devotional book, but God has shuffled that. So it's just having to be dynamic even within the plan that you think you have, because God has the right timing for all the things. But juggling everything that I do, hence Juggling the Jays as my name. But yeah, it takes a lot of planning, and it takes a lot of passion. I find when I'm not passionate about whatever I'm working on, I kind of need to move on to something else, because I feel like then I'm doing it in my own strength and not God's. I feel when I'm not, when I'm just trying and it's not flowing. So it's a juggle, but it's amazing. If 10 years ago, if I knew what I was doing, if God had told me 10 years ago what I would be doing now, I wouldn't have believed him. I would have thought, no way, there's no way I could be juggling 4 children, a husband who, he's not currently flying, but who usually flies. Due to COVID, that's changed things in aviation.
Right, that's right.
The pilot husband, and then the app, the books, the music. But God gives you the grace, and he gives you the strength to do everything that he calls you to do.
Yes. And so Jenna, I want to go back to, and you said a really great nugget there when you said that you make your plan. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do, I'm a coach, a life coach, and so I help women find development to pursue their purpose. And you need a plan, but I love how you said that, is it needs flexibility as women of God. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So for example, how do you plan, and how did you, for example, you realized God was shuffling things? What were some of the signs that you saw to know that, wait, it's not this, I need to be doing this?
In Exodus 9:16, I've raised you up for this very purpose, and that my name will be proclaimed in all the earth. So our purpose, no matter what it is for his glory. So whenever I find that I'm trying to, my human nature is coming in, and I'm like, yo, look at me, I've done this. And then I'm like, whoa, not me. Then I know I need a bit of a realignment. I'm making it too much about myself. And then in it as well is I almost prioritize the things that he's calling me to. For me personally, I'm a wife and a mother. And for me, those are my primaries. I do have others that he leads me into and takes me into, like my books and my blog and my music. But my first and foremost, he blessed me to be Jason's wife and the mother of my 4 children. And whenever I find anything starting to take away from that, I know I need to relook at it and say, okay, maybe now is not the time. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do that book, or I'm not going to do that ministry, but it may not be the season, because right now my kids are young. So that's where I need to be putting my time and energy. And I can just see that in my own behavior. If I'm getting a lot more irritable with the children,
right,
or my husband needs me, I'm like, oh, I'm busy, I can't be there for you. Then I mean, I know we have things in life we have to do, and I'm not saying we must drop everything. There are roles and responsibilities we have to do, but I just know when I'm not able to support my primary, which is my family, I need to do a bit of shuffling. So they always are the priority. And then when there is time around that, when the kids are at school, my husband's at work, that's my time where I can give into writing the books, doing the apps, that kind of thing.
Yes. And so you said some beautiful things, and that's what I got from there is number one, when it's just like, look what I did, it's that kind of thing where it's almost puffing yourself up, and then you realize, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing things for God's glory. And yes, we are blessed by those things, but that's not what it initially should be. And then number two, the other nugget I heard from you is just priorities. And you mentioned a very important thing with seasons. We have to understand that life is about seasons and understanding the season that you're actually in. So your kids, tell us the ages of your kids, for example.
So my eldest is 8. And then that's Jack. And then Jessica is 7. Right. And then I have twins. So Jono and Jane are twins, and they'll be 5 in February. Yeah. Right.
So 8 and under. So very young. Very young still, and you're in a different stage. And my kids, for example, are 14, 10, and 9. So I'm just shifting into preteen, right? So I'm just now able to do a few more things like this now, because I'm shifting into a different season. So thank you for those nuggets. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just thinking, because as you say that, for me, I've had a dream of some of the things I'm doing now, and some of the things I would love to do in the future long ago. And like you say, my kids are younger than yours, but they're not as young as they used to be. And,
That's right.
And 5 years ago, I wasn't doing any of the things I'm currently doing. No. I had a dream of starting a blog, dream of writing, dream of recording music, but I hadn't got there. And only in the last year have I had time to actually start doing those things. So like you said, it's such about timing and seasons. And it doesn't mean if there's a dream on your heart, doesn't mean it may happen today. God has to take you through a process, sometimes to be able to handle what he's preparing you for. And I think too often we almost jump the gun, and we think, oh, okay, well, I'm meant to be doing that. And then we can actually do more damage than good, because we weren't actually strong enough or wise enough, or whatever God wants to teach us to handle. Something it often reminds me of when I'm walking, and when I'm my complaining, when I'm in my little being one of the Israelites complaining in the desert, and I'm like, oh man, why isn't that happening? Why isn't that happening? And he's like, well, I've called you to do more, so I've called you to be more, because to do more, you can't expect that if you're not prepared to up your game,
I love what you said. So many things you said there. I'm making notes as well. But so you really have to be more before you can do more, as you just said. And you're right. So for the moms out there that you've had a dream, and you probably have young kids, your husband, it's don't get flabbergasted with it. Write it down. Write
Totally.
it down, right? Remember Joseph in the Bible, like he had that dream, how many years before, right? And so it again, life is about seasons. So as Jenna mentioned, you got to be taking care of what you need to take care of at that time, which is your family, right? And then a time will come, the kids will grow, the husband, so you'll have more time. So write it down. So what did you do, Jenna, to hold on to you said that you have the dream 5 years ago. What did you do to hold on to that?
It's interesting. I think a big thing is, well, for me, I communicate to God all day. So I think a lot of it is, and like I said, even when I walk, I complain, and I know it sounds terrible. I don't only complain, I promise, but it's just that, that communication, it's such a relationship with God, and he's my greatest friend. So it's saying, why is that? And where's that? And the same thing with my dreams. I'd be like, well, this is what I'm believing for. And then talk to him about it. And just say, well, I can't do that right now. I'm 4 kids under 4 years. It was just crazy.
Of course.
And so it was really crazy. And then my husband was always, he was long haul. So he was an Emirates pilot. So so the hence the Dubai. That's where the Dubai comes in.
Okay, that's where it comes in. Okay, nice.
That's where the Dubai comes in. So he was never at home, and if he was at home, he was sleeping.
Of course.
So, so I never let the passion die. I am a visionary by nature.
Okay.
So I love a vision. I think it's so important.
Yes.
And for me, I'm a big dreamer. Love that. Yeah. And I thrive on that.
Yes.
So I feel my passion, but I think when they have those moments where you're like, well, I want to do that, but I can't right now, not to get despondent or get beat up and say, oh, well, it's never going to happen for me. It's just not your time.
It's just not the time. So what did you do though, Jenna, in that time? So in that 5 years, you weren't doing what you were doing now. What did you do to encourage yourself?
Well, I think I was also so busy, I didn't realize.
That's so true. It's a blessing in disguise. Yeah,
it was. So the dream was there, and I still had the passion. I just knew the timing would be right. I don't even know how to explain that. I had the dream, but I didn't get despondent knowing it wasn't happening now. For one, I didn't have the time. Okay. And I've always prioritized where the most important lies, and I knew it was my kids and my husband. And in that, just keeping that passion alive. But I think being so busy and so chaotic, I never resented not being able to do it either, because I know my first and foremost wife and mother. So that was my call for that season. And I had peace that I knew when the time was right, the other things would start falling into place. So just digging into God and my relationship with him. And I also just know, and I know I'm repeating myself what I said just now, but I know he wouldn't give me certain responsibilities if I wasn't ready for them yet. So I just needed to grow in who I am and in my relationship with him before he could do that. So not to be like a spoiled child. He's taught me so much through being a mother. Just
oh gosh,
through my own character.
Believe me.
Like, oh my word, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know I was this impatient.
Yeah, trust me.
And and also just the way children behave, and then I think, am I behaving like that to God? I probably am. I'm like,
yes.
So learning in the season, it's
So tell us now then your journey. So now we're the 5 years later, and your kids are older. Maybe husband's not traveling as much or whatever. You have more time. Tell us how you started to start these things that you're into.
Well, so last year in March, the kids and I so we were living in Dubai. Jace was still flying for Emirates, and the kids and I came to South Africa for a holiday to see my parents, and then lockdown happened. So we got stuck here in South Africa.
Okay.
And then my husband got stuck in Dubai with the dogs. And then a few months later, he lost his job at Emirates in that process. They retrenched a whole lot. And then so he returned. But in those, I think it was about 6 months that Jason was in Dubai and I was living with my parents.
Yes.
and the kids were at home. So I had time, there weren't school runs, there weren't lunch boxes, there weren't any of that.
Right.
The time came, and it also just it helped me to cope with a lot of the change that was happening, knowing he'd lost his job and all those things. So just kind of really going in, and so for Bloom was the first thing I started. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, so Bloom, for about 2 years I've had a dream to have it's almost like a social media platform for Christian women. A place reserved for only women. You don't have to be a Christian to be on there. It's not like exclusive club,
right?
But it is faith-based and
yes,
and it's Bible-based. So if you're on there, be aware that everything is
yes,
Bible referenced.
That's
right. And that's the concept behind it. And having Bible courses on there, social feeds, groups you can create, a Christian shop, that kind of concept. And so when I had the time last year in lockdown, that's when I developed that. So first was a web page, and then the app came probably about 3 months ago.
Okay.
And so that's Bloom, and it's always developing. We wanting to start now monthly prayer meetings. There are monthly encouragement prophetic meetings currently. They aren't run by me, but I'm usually on them as well. And just getting. It's like a place for women to come and say, I've got this Bible study. Who wants to join us? Or I've just finished the book. This is the book. Go check it out. Yeah. Here are the links.
Right.
Or I have to pray for women. I'm doing a Zoom this Thursday at this time, East Central Time or whatever. Whoever wants to join it. It's that concept.
Kind of. Okay. So it's organic. From the sounds of it. And do you have a team that's helping you with Bloom?
A little bit. It's mainly all me.
Okay. That's how you start. That's how you usually start.
It is. So it's mainly all me. I do have some women that God's brought, like he always does. He always does.
Yeah.
And so the main running of it is all me. The development has been me, but there are a few women that obviously are in the background and huge encouragers to me, and pray and rethink ideas and run a few things. So there are a few women, but the main team is just me.
Right. And as it grows, then that's something you'll have to, get some people on board for sure. Okay, that's beautiful.
We kind of at that point now. We already.
You are, right?
We are, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I think we are needing more of a team here, but I'm leaving it up to him, and we'll see who he brings along.
And I believe he will. I remember the story, as you're saying that, the story of Moses, when they left Egypt and his father-in-law came, and was saying, what are you doing? Like, he was judging them day and night. And it's just, you can't do it. There's only so much you can do. Right. And so he said, find able-bodied, men of wisdom. So, and that's the same thing that goes here as you're going to, and it will grow. Because there is a need for it, the Lord will bring you these people that complement your skills and your gifts. So that'll be beautiful. That's great. So what else, Jenna? I know that's not all. So what else are you doing?
So the app, so that started. And then at the same time last year, I started doing the Juggling the Jays, so my blog. So just writing a lot more. I started doing, it actually started with Easter 2020. I started a resurrection egg video series with my kids, and that kind of started the process going of Juggling the Jays. And it's grown from there, where I write blogs and I do a few vlogs here and there, and that sort of thing. And then God gave me downloads. It's the only way I can explain them. So the song that you listened to, that was completely a download. I was sitting on my piano and it just downloads.
I understand that. Believe me.
And that was that song. And the same happened with children's books that I'm releasing next month. Well, I've got a publisher, but the publisher is releasing them next month.
Okay.
It was about July last year, in the same lockdown period. And I had this idea for the books just came for Fruits of the Spirit. And I just sat on my bed with papers and they downloaded the basic outline, downloaded, and how to run with them. And then from there, I just did the scribbles that I'd like in the book. And then a cousin of mine who is a graphic designer, she brought my vision alive.
Great.
That was the kids' books. And then the Questions of Purpose book, the book I've been working on as well. It's it was the same thing. The idea of just, the questions behind your purpose, the why, the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, all the questions behind purpose. So that book is the one I've been working on as well since then. Downloaded. It's been a lot. That's been the hardest work. That book.
Yes.
It's
stretching you, is it?
Really stretching me.
Yeah.
But it's been amazing in how much I've grown through it. So
this is what it is. This is what it is. This is how God works, right? So I want to pull out something key that Jenna said, for those that are going to be listening, is that I know COVID, the lockdown and everything was tough, but that was a moment of time for opportunity where she was with her parents. So childcare. Right? So that's why you had time now to, through your relationship with God. Really, right? You saw that. You're like, husband's in Dubai, I'm here, I've got childcare. Like, this is a no-brainer. This is the season right now to start. So, and that's what you got to look for, is those pockets of time that, things change that you don't expect, but you're like, wait a minute, there's actually an opportunity here. Right. And that's it. And then you took it and you went off for it. And that's why it's going to grow. You planted that seed. That's fantastic. So we have the song, we have Bloom. You're writing several books. How do you juggle? So things are, well, your husband may not be, working now, but how are you juggling things at home? So let's talk as a mom, like, how are you handling doing that?
It is a juggle. And I mean, some weeks are harder than others. It's interesting. One of my favorite verses is Proverbs 4:23. It's actually the first verse God ever gave me. I was 9 years old and I was sitting on my bed, and it just, when a verse just like highlights in the Bible, and that verse highlighted, and I was like, oh, God's obviously telling me something. And at the time, I didn't realize how important that verse would be for my life. And it's above all else, guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life. And it really has, from then, and it's never left me. And it's all about boundaries and learning how to say no and when to say yes. And because I tend to be a people pleaser by nature. I love encouraging people. I love helping people. And often I battle when to say no. Someone needs help, and then and it can be a challenge as to sometimes, or can you do worship this weekend? Can you do that? And you want to say yes to everything. But, you can't pour from an empty jug, and it's very important to fill your own. And like in the beginning, I said, your priorities, just knowing who you say no to last, which is obviously your husband and your kids. And so when I have those weeks where I'm feeling very stretched and the schedules are crazy and my cup is really running on empty. And number one, I know I need a lot more Jesus, because he's going to be the power that's going to get me through all of that. But it's also just cutting some things that you don't necessarily need to do, and putting that priority back in. Well, I'm in mom, and I'm in this crazy mom season where I'm carting kids, and I can't be there right now because this is what I'm doing, and just giving yourself the grace for the seasons you're in. Not having that guilt of not being able to do everything, and just that grace is so important. So
beautifully said. And we don't want to drop our families, and it's whatever your kids are, or however kids you have, those are future nations, right? So we definitely don't want to drop that. And when God is the giver of dreams, he knows. He's planned our entire life. So he already knows how many kids you're going to have, and so on and so forth. So don't sweat it. If you're they're all in diapers and all that stuff, that's what you're doing at that time. You know what I mean?
Don't sweat the small stuff. Because sometimes you can just overthink, well, I need to be doing that. Like, God's called me to do a ministry. And yes, he has. If you're not doing it now, it doesn't mean that you're never going to.
There you go.
There's a process. And like how you spoke about Joseph earlier, and he had the dream.
Yes.
And but the process to get there, and the process wasn't pleasant. I mean, he was in prison for 13 years for something he never did. And
right.
so, but had he never been through the process, and throughout it, his faith just grew. He ministered wherever God put him, including prison, just by shining God's light. And through that, and having the heart that he did after God,
Mm-hmm.
then became the 2IC of the nation.
And this is it.
And I could imagine sitting there in the prison being like, oh, well, that dream was obviously not real.
That's what naturally you would think that. How could it be? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so moms and others that are listening, and thank you, Jen, for bringing that up, but that's exactly it. May we, in whatever season or wherever place or environment we find ourselves, may we have that spirit of Joseph. He excelled everywhere he was. He excelled everywhere he was. And so may we be able to do that as well, walk by faith and not by sight, and excel wherever we were, knowing that God is in control, and God said he never leave us or forsake us. So we're going to do our very best in any environment that we're in. So Jenna, thank you so much. This is short and sweet. I know there's more I want to grab from you, but we want to keep this.
My last little word, I just finished what you said, is with purpose. I think too often we think for purpose, it's like one thing, but purpose is a journey, and it's wherever you are right now, just like what you said. It's not about when I get there, when I have that ministry, when I've written that book. It's where you are right now doing, whether God's called you to clean the toilets. I mean, I'm not trying to defend that. No, if he's told you to speak on the pulpit, like, we do with our whole heart, because there's reason and purpose behind it. And it's a journey. It's not just a one day thing. Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's a great, final sort of concluding thought. So folks, ladies that are listening, we just want to encourage you, just wherever you are right now, whether it's in dirty diapers or, whatever the situation it is, we really pray that you would just excel, just like Joseph, and have the spirit of Joseph in whatever environment that you are, and draw what you need from the Lord. This is a time to daily and continually communing with him. That's the key. Absolutely. That is the key. The last interview I had, and she's a playwright, and she talked about how that's where she gets her creativity from. Literally everything we get from the Lord, strength, create everything that we need. And that's the key. So thank you so much for joining myself and Jenna. It was a pleasure talking with you, Jenna. And for those listening, we hope that we've inspired you to go and do your thing, whatever that thing might happen to be. And as Jenna said, it is a journey. So I'm Bev from Redeem the Time for Life. And I hope to talk to you all soon. So take care.